Negative and zero exponents is the one-day topic that's tacked on to the end of chapter 4. And basically there are only two things that you need to remember with negative and zero exponents. The first part is just that anything to the power of 0 equals 1. Anything at all. So anything to the power of 0, whether it's a fraction, whether it's a really large number, whether it's a negative number, long as it's in brackets, that whole thing to the power of 0 is equal to 1. Where people get stumped a little bit is if there are no brackets, for example, negative 4 to the power of 0. BEDMAS tells us we have to do the exponents first. E from BEDMAS is the exponents. This means you're multiplying by a negative 1. So this happens first, that happens next. So this is going to be equal to the negative answer of 4 to the power of 0, which is negative 1. So if there's a negative number to the power of 0 but there's no brackets, then basically it's equal to negative 1. For example, negative 5/3 to the power of 0 is equal to negative of 5/3 to the power of 0, which is negative 1. Now, whenever you have a negative exponent, okay, this is the second part of this topic. Whenever you have a negative exponent, what you have to do is you have to take the reciprocal and turn the exponent into a positive. So for a negative exponent, it's equal to the positive exponent of the reciprocal. So reciprocal means you flip the fraction. Don't confuse it with the negative reciprocal. You don't need to change any signs. For example, if you had 4 to the power of negative 2, that's the same thing as saying the reciprocal of 4 to the power of positive 2. So this is the reciprocal of 4. Now, how do you take a reciprocal of a number with no denominator? Well, 4 is the same thing as saying 4 over 1. So the reciprocal of 4 over 1 would be 1 over 4. So 1 over 4 to the power of 2 just means 1 squared over 4 squared, which is 1 over 16. If you have a fraction, it works the exact same way. So let's say we had 2/3 to the power of negative 3. You take this exponent and you make it positive, but in order to do that, you have to flip the fraction. So the reciprocal of 2/3 is 3 over 2. So then you take that exponent and you apply it to the numerator and the denominator. So 3 cubed over 2 cubed means 3 times 3 times 3 over 2 times 2 times 2, and you're done. If the base means the number that you're raising to an exponent, so this is the base and this is the exponent. If the base is a negative number in the original question, it'll still be a negative number in the answer. Taking the reciprocal doesn't mean you change the sign. It just means that you flip the fraction upside down. So if you had a question like negative 5 to the power of negative 2, the reciprocal of negative 5, well, this is negative 5 over 1, so the reciprocal is negative 1 over 5. It still stays negative, but the fraction flips upside down. It doesn't matter if the negative goes at the top, at the bottom, or out front. As long as there's only one negative sign, you're fine. That flipping process, this reciprocal, will change the exponent to a positive number. So instead of negative 2, it becomes positive 2. And that applies to the numerator and to the denominator. So the answer is going to be negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. 5 times 5 is 25. So the answer is 1 over 25. That's all you need to know for negative and zero exponents. Sometimes we'll have questions where we'll mix them together. For example, we might have negative 2 to the power of 0 plus 3 to the power of negative 2. So for this question, you work out each part individually and then you add them, follow BEDMAS. This tells us to do the exponent first, so negative sign stays there, still a negative answer, and 2 to the power of 0 is 1, plus this negative exponent is the same thing as flipping the fraction. Well, it's a 3 over 1, so if I flip it, take the reciprocal, it's going to be 1/3 to the positive exponent. So then I'm going to work out what that would be. So negative 1 stays the same, plus 1 squared is 1, and 3 squared is 9. Now we have negative 1 plus 1 over 9. To add and subtract fractions, we have to make sure we have common denominators. Right now, this is negative 1 over 1. So because we have 1 and we have a 9, we have to make sure they're common denominators. We're going to take this first fraction, we're going to multiply it by 9 to get common denominators. Common denominators. So common denominators for adding and subtracting fractions. This becomes negative 9 over 9 plus the 1 over 9. Negative 9 plus 1 is negative 8 over 9 is our final answer. So follow BEDMAS. Make sure that you keep track of where the brackets are. If there's brackets or if there's no brackets, it'll make a difference. Make sure that you put a whole number over 1 so that you can take the reciprocal. For example, 3 over 1 became 1 over 3, taking the reciprocal. And make sure for addition and subtraction that you find a common denominator and you add and subtract their numerators, the denominator stays the same. That's the end of the negative and zero exponents topic.